Hello everyone, Storm 101 here. Today we'll be talking about two pieces of energy. One sits out in the parts of the Northwest, and there's one off in the parts of the Eastern Pacific. These two will be coming together in the parts of the several places to become an organized storm that will bring significant impacts across parts of the central and eastern U.S. It could bring flooding issues, a snowstorm, ice storm, and even for a chance for some strong to severe storms as well. And this will be in effect for parts of the central and eastern part of the country as well. Before we get started on this video, if you guys do like weather related content, you can always subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff all the time on this channel. We'll also be having more updates on the storm system as well, so definitely stay tuned for more updates on the system here as we do get closer to it as well. So we're getting started with the watch warning advisory display, and as you can see here, these blue boxes here, these are winter storm watches, and it does go from parts of southern Colorado, central Texas, and that goes all the way up into parts of western New York. Don't be surprised if some of these do expand a little bit further to the southeast and also include more areas in the northeast as well. And we also do have winter storm warnings in the parts of Illinois, Indiana, northwestern Ohio, and southwestern Michigan as well. That's going to be for the first part of the system here. That could bring in multiple rounds of moderate to heavy snowfall in some of those areas. But it's the second low that's going to create major problems across a good chunk of the country as well over the next couple of days as well. So let's go check out the models to see what they are suggesting. So we're going to get started with the GFS model, and the first part of the system here is actually in the northwest, and our surface low is in the parts of southern Canada, but what the system has is what's known as an Arctic front. This is the one that's going to bring in the colder air, so this is going to be very important for the setup. That system is going to create quite a bit of wind in the parts of the northern plains in the upper Midwest as well, and a little bit of snow. And as soon as this Arctic front does come a little bit further south, precipitation starts to break out along that front as well. At the same time, the Gulf of Mexico is wide open for moisture as well, so we're definitely not going to have a shortage of moisture with this system here as well. And eventually, a low was developed somewhere in the parts of the several plains and right up along the Arctic front. Now, the uncertainty that we have with this system is how far southeast this Arctic front could go, and this can really depend on what the track of the low. And it does matter for many folks out there as well. So that's why this is going to be very important to talk about, is what the possibilities are with the system as well. And you can see here, really by 18Z on Wednesday or 1 o'clock in Eastern time, we got moderate to heavy snow on the backside of it from southeastern Kansas all the way up into southeastern Michigan. At the same time, we are starting to see some sleet and freeze rain develop as well. And this is going to turn into an ice storm. And you can see here with the GFS, I mean, this is going to be a massive precipitation shield. You got your precipitation shield goes as far southwest as parts of Mexico, and it goes all the way up to just northeast of Maine. I mean, this precipitation shield is going to be huge. Our surface low is going to be developing in the Texarkana region. Just north of the low is a lot of freezing rain and sleet. That's what's going to bring the ice storm threat as well. Me on the backside of this low here, eventually everybody's going to transition over to a wintry mix of some sort. Either going to be freezing rain, sleet, and some snow as well. Yeah, snow is going to be returning into Texas again this year. Well, for 2 times in a row for the year. That's what I meant to say. Anyway, this is 1 o'clock in the morning on February the 4th, and you can see here the precipitation shield is still pretty large, but you also still have your ice storm still ongoing from parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, all the way up into parts of the Northeast as well. And just north of the icing is where we have quite a bit of snow still going on with the system as well. And it does show your surface low in the parts of Alabama as well. And you remember, this model here was much farther to the northwest with it. Well, since we got new data with the first part of the system, which is the one that's going to bring the Arctic front, it had a southeast shift. And it's a very similar situation to the other models, which we'll be checking that out right now. So this is the European model. Let's actually get into a bigger view here. So this is what the European model is suggesting. So pretty much the same thing over the next couple of days. Your first low does develop. It's going to be very weak. But you can see here, it'll be somewhere right in here. And then again, it'll be a very weak low. But it'll be strong enough to at least break out some snow on the back side of the system as well. It does have a little bit of sleet and freezing rain with it. But the big low starts to develop in the Texas-Arcana region and moves a little bit to the northeast. Now, this model has been trending a little bit southeast compared to its previous runs as well. And it does have the low pressure system still tracking further north than the GFS, so there's still uncertainty with the track is low. But either way, it doesn't matter where the low is going to go, it's still going to have significant impacts for somebody. Somebody's going to get a significant ice storm, somebody's going to get a lot of snow, somebody's going to get severe weather, and somebody's going to get flooding issues. It really doesn't matter, at least with the potential that it has. But what still matters is for some of those areas out there. For example, if you live in the parts of Kentucky, up in the parts of West Virginia and Pennsylvania, yeah, the low does matter on the southern end of that ice storm potential, because where the track of the low goes, this ice is going to fall along with it as well. So then again, it still matters a little bit, but either way, it's still going to bring significant impacts with it as well. And it finally does get out of here really by Friday as well. Here's the Canadian model. This has been the most consistent model so far, and models are beginning to trend towards the Canadian model solution. And it does have the low kind of in between the GFS and the European model. Kind of has it going through Tennessee with this run here. And then again, Canadian model's been the most consistent, and you do notice here it still brings significant impacts for a lot of people out there as well. And that ice storm threat could go as far northeast as in the parts of the northeast as well, like parts of New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, New York. Could see that potential ice storm threat as well. And just north of that could be quite a bit of snow again for some of those same areas that get hit hard by the nor'easter a couple days ago. Here's the NAM model. We're starting to get in a range where high resolution model data is coming in. And the NAM was very far north. It was the furthest northern low out of the rest of the models here. And you do notice here, it did come further southeast as well with the low, with its latest run here, as you can tell, right there, than compared to some of its previous runs. That's because it got weather data from, at least from the first part of the system. The second part of the system, then again, is still out in the Eastern Pacific. Well, out in the Pacific Ocean, I should say, on that. Not necessarily the Eastern Pacific, but it's still out there in the Pacific either way. And it still doesn't go for the entire event, but you do get the idea that it is a little bit further south than its previous runs as well. Here's the high-risk Canadian model, and it still continues a little bit more of a northern track, pretty similar to the European model, at least with its latest 12Z run. You'll be interested to see what it will show in the next few runs on these models here as well over the next couple of days as well. So this is the GFS ensembles here. This is for snowfall. Still a strong agreement here, not as high as the last video, but you do notice that this shift further to the south here. I remember on the previous runs from my area, it had pretty much nothing, and now it went up to a little over 4 inches. So that's certainly a big difference there as well. And that's a big separate shift as well. And that, then again, that's all due to getting that weather balloon data and some of those surface observations in the northwest for the, at least, and then again for the first part of the system. You never know what the next part of the system is going to do, if it's going to change it up or not. You also do notice here with the GFS ensembles, it does take over a good chunk of the New England states as well. For some of the areas that miss out on nor'easter, you can get hit pretty good out of the system as well. So this system could actually make it up for from the last system for some of you folks did miss as well. Okay, let's talk about the energy for a little bit. And like I was saying here, that piece of energy is still out in the Eastern Pacific, or Pacific Ocean, I should say. And you do notice here with that piece of energy, the second part, it does come on shore by tomorrow morning. And hopefully, when we get those surface observations and stuff like that, we should be able to see a little bit more accurate runs with the models here. It'll be interested to see of what will change the model's idea. Could it shift the track for southeast? Could it go a little bit northwest? Or it could be the same. We never know. We'll probably find that out by tomorrow. But anyway, at this point here, by 15Z Wednesday, it's a positively tilted trough. But you do notice here where your front is kind of settling in here. So where around all this energy is out there. And that's where your Arctic front is going to set up. And then you just get these waves of energy out there as well. That's going to help keep some of those showers and snow to keep on going out there as well. And it also kind of stalls out for a little bit as well. And eventually it should come northeast at some point. They'll come up northeast maybe sometime this upcoming weekend. That's going to be something we need to keep an eye on as well. And we'll see how that trends here. But if it does trend a little bit slower here, that can lead to a little bit more of a southeastward shift because it gives a little bit more time for that colder air to sink a little bit further south as well. So that can change the track. Also, and if it does trend a little bit stronger as well, it does kind of lean a little bit more northwest as well. So the northwest shift is still possible, but I don't think it won't be a very big northwest shift or anything. If there's a better opportunity to shift somewhere, it's probably going to be southeast than northwest if it's going to shift or anything like that. But you never know. Time will tell on that as well over the next couple of days. So here's your scenarios, and no changes on here. There is actually no changes on here. So then again, this is scenario 1. Low tracks further north due to it being a stronger low and or cold air mass is slightly weaker and or the low is faster. And it could be either one of those that could lead to a little bit further north track. Now I think the biggest player with the track of the low is of how strong the cold air mass is going to be. If it does trend stronger, the Arctic front's going to go a little bit further south, southeast. And that's the thing that models have trouble with, is they sometimes underestimate that cold air for what be going on. And I think that's going to be the biggest player with this setup here. In scenario 2, low tracks south due to it being a weaker low and or cold air mass is stronger, or the low is a little bit slower as well. And so far, models are kind of leaning towards a little bit more scenario 2. But then again, there's still plenty of time for changes. We're still a couple days away from this event as well. Let's not forget about the severe weather potential. I'm sure some people are probably going to overlook this. Let's then again not forget about the severe weather potential. So this is the NAM model. This is your supercell composite here. Higher the number, the more favorable environment for supercells is, or severe weather in general. It does have it getting as far north as parts of central Mississippi, but the GFS does have a little bit of a preference. It's actually a much lower risk with it as well, which it might be a little bit underdone with some of those dynamics as well. But either way, there's going to be a severe weather risk out there, and I think it's going to be mainly for southeastern Louisiana and southern Mississippi. If we get a sounding out there in southern Mississippi, and let's see what it shows, and you do see there's going to be plenty of instability to work with, and there's actually going to be quite a bit of wind shear to work with as well. So that's going to help elevate that severe weather risk. Your photograph looks pretty good as well. So this will be favorable for damage winds and also the possibility for some isolated tornadoes as well. Now this is going to be for a small area. It's not going to be for a large area, which is the good news that this is going to be happening in a smaller area. But either way, there's going to be a severe weather risk with this system as well. So for anybody that lives in southeast Louisiana, southern Mississippi, even getting into southwestern Alabama, definitely have to keep an eye on the severe weather risk on Thursday. So that's going to be something to watch. Another threat the system will have is rainfall, and there could be quite a bit with it as well. This tells you how much moisture the system is going to have. And you do see there is some pretty good rainfall matches which it does get as far north as Severn, Ohio. And then again, it shows a widespread 2 to 4 inches. It definitely shifted a little bit further east than some of its previous runs before. And those higher amounts do get as far south as parts of Alabama and Mississippi as well. Here's the GFS model. It's a little bit slightly westward, but still very similar rainfall amounts out there. Here's the NAM, and it's actually a little bit higher, but it's a higher resolution model. I will say that, but I do believe it's a little bit overdone with the rainfall amounts. But hey, it could be possible as well if there's a little bit more moisture to work with as well. So there is a potential risk for some flooding issues, especially in the parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, and then probably getting as far south as parts of northern Mississippi, Alabama. So that's something we need to keep an eye on as well. And maybe even for Southern Ohio as well, depending on the track of the low. And the system here will have a little bit of wind as well, especially in the warm sector in the parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama. Wind gusts could be 30 to 35 miles an hour, but some areas could see up to 35 to 40 miles an hour. It's a possibility as well. Even on the backside of the system here, there's some pretty good wind gusts out there as well. Maybe not necessarily blizzard territory, I would say, with it, but there could be a decent amount of wind out there, and it'd be strong enough for some blowing snow out there as well with the system. So this system will be a pretty decent wind maker as well. Even on the cold side, it would be as well. Now, then again, still plenty of time for some changes on the system here. We're not 100% set in stone with the amounts and the track of the load just yet, but hopefully we'll have a better idea on the system here tomorrow. Now, before I end this video here, I will be releasing a February forecast tomorrow. It will be a double upload tomorrow as well, so definitely stay tuned for that as well. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit that like button. If you do like my channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put in the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, and have a good day.